Hey guys, welcome back to Don't Call It a Podcast because it's much bigger than that. With myself, Melanie, a psychic medium, and my best friend, Krissy, who is also a psychic medium. And we are coming on today for today's episode to talk about channeling. All right. So I just wanted to start out by, first of all, I even forgot to tell you this, Krissy. While I was writing down some info before we started this, I saw angel number 1234 on the clock. So, for someone here, you got an angel number coming out 1234. Definitely look further into that, guys. Google the spiritual meaning of the angel number 1234 and see what is coming up there for you. It should probably resonate for you in some kind of way. All right.
Can I just tell
Um,
you something crazy about that?
what?
So if you look at whenever I sent you the Zoom link, it was at 1234 because I sent it
No.
and then I checked my phone and I was like, oh, it's 1234. So that is just crazy that you even said that, and I clocked it myself.
That
Yeah.
is so crazy because I keep my phone on silent. And no, I am not a cheater. I'm just kidding. Everybody's like, if you keep your phone on silent, you're a cheater. No, I can't stand all the little noises my phone constantly makes, and it gets on my nerves because I'm weird. So I had no idea when I didn't hear a notification, but I was sitting here writing and I looked up and it was right there. Boom, 1234. And 1234, for anyone that doesn't know, means you're on the right path. So if you're here watching this, you're on the right path right now towards learning how to channel.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like
Because
progression, and that's how I take it too. And like this is the third of our kind of building block series that we started.
yes. And so, like Krissy was just saying, we did a meditation podcast. And what was the other one?
Energy protection.
Energy protection. Those go along with this channeling one. So if you're into this and you're interested, watch all of those. Okay. The meditation one and the energy protection one, which were the last two. Go on my Facebook, open up my videos, and they're all in there. Okay. And they're all titled and everything because, like she said, they all go together. But the first thing I want to say, channeling is a natural ability that we all are born having. Okay. So this is not, oh, well, I'm not a psychic or a medium or an intuitive. So I guess I probably can't channel. No. And if you're telling yourself you can't do it, you're already downplaying the situation for yourself. You're already lacking in the belief of what could be, right?
Yep.
And like they say, your mind and your thought process creates your reality, and it really does. If you don't believe something's going to work, it's probably not going to work. And that actually me like showing you your power because you're making whatever it is not work for you. So if you just change to the opposite and say it does work, then boom, now it does work for you, you know?
Right. To say like I am a channeler. Like, I mean, you can change your reality with your mindset alone. But people channel all the time and don't even notice or don't even realize that they are. Like before I even knew about channeling or anything, I just remember like sitting at the park with my friend and she was just telling me a lot of things that was going on with her like family and everything. And she's like, I come to you and tell you this stuff like because you just always have the best advice. And I'm like, at the time, I'm like, I am like unhealed, kind of wreck of a person, just like hanging on, white knuckling my way through life. I'm like, I have good advice. Like, what are you talking about? But, and half the time I would be talking like to her and like just things that were coming out of my mouth. I'm like, where did that come from? Like, and this is before I even knew any of this existed. So a lot of times in those moments, sometimes your higher self takes over, especially in high important moments or if you're nervous for something, like you always have that backup uh like program in you. And
Like
so yeah,
reinforcements, you
yeah,
know?
exactly. And it's just yeah, I just think like people channel way more than they realize or they're doing it more often than they realize. So when that stuff happens, write it down, clock it. I always say thank you for that, just
Yes.
as an acknowledgement because yeah, that's what's happening in those moments.
That is so funny, Krissy, because that was one of the little things I jotted down that I just didn't want to forget to get brought up if it didn't get brought up. And you brought it up. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So the first thing I want to cover is What is channeling and what is it used for? Well, channeling is the communication with things outside of yourself. I didn't like look up an actual definition because there's going to be like a different, like there's different takes on it, but like generally, channeling is picking up on things outside of yourself. You're getting information, wisdom, and downloads that are coming from another source, okay? Not you, is
Yeah.
basically what it is. And what it's used for is pretty simple. I kept it real simple and brief. It's used to communicate with spirits, okay? And that includes your higher self. So if you are spiritual, but you don't believe in God, I'm not here to tell anybody to do anything they don't want to do. I do believe in God very wholeheartedly. But if you are not there yet on your journey, okay, because guys, don't look down on people for their choices because we're all at a different level. All right. And maybe if someone doesn't believe in God, they will at some point, or they're being led to that, but there are other things they have to learn and understand before they get there. Okay. And I just wanted to make that very clear always, that if you don't believe in God, you can still channel, and the spirit you're talking to is your higher self. Okay. Because we all have a soul that makes us alive, and our soul is a spirit, right? So,
Right.
also, automatic writing. Okay, channeling is used in automatic writing for automatic writing because some people, like myself, I love the automatic writing, but I can just channel like right off the top of my head. All right. Like when I was younger, it was much harder, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But automatic writing is just a great way to even get into learning how to channel. Okay. And then understanding your past life is another big reasoning behind using channeling. How else can you find out about your past lives that you have lived, that we've all lived, without channeling? Because you are channeling information from a different time, a different space, a different existence, and there's no other way to get that information without channeling it in. Okay. But I believe that we were born with our brain functioning and having the ability to channel and do all of these types of things. But we have to learn how to use those tools however it works for us, because it's different for everybody. And Krissy and I were just talking about how it is different for everybody.
Yeah, like my process is different than your process, and just the way I kind of evolved my process was just getting bits and pieces from different like videos or books or psychics, mediums, like just kind of a collective learning, and I just kind of base it off of like what feels right for me. Like I might see what someone else does and be like, that's a little too much, or that's not enough, or it's just like you kind of have to be you know. uh, assertive and like listen to like your intuition on what works for you and what resonates with you. Do you want to go over like what your process is, or should I go first and just kind of, because I have like kind of a step by step, because just like referring back to like the other videos, like I mean I do an energy protection of course, and meditation has really helped with channeling. It helps you to train your brain on how to clear your mind. Last week with the meditation we were talking about like that shift, or yeah, this the switch. Like when I go to channel, I literally picture like a red carpet that I like am walking down in first person, and then I have this giant switch and I flip it. And that's whenever my thoughts
Cool.
are set aside. Yeah, and then I can start receiving messages. But before that, I do my energy protection, which is, even lighting a candle. And I always light the candle. I was like, I like this candle in resemblance of God, God's protection, his white light around me, protecting me, my family, my home, my property. And so that's a practice that I've kind of keep doing. And then I do like to light an incense, and I like to use like the smoke to like clear the area, like clear my room or wherever I am, to kind of cleanse out any energies that are not mine, any stagnant energy, because I just want it to be from me, my higher self, like wherever I'm getting the messages from. So that's kind of where I start, and then I get into like channeling, and I'll go through like after you kind of tell them.
Oh, yeah, you can, if you want to go through that, go ahead.
Really? Okay, it's
Yeah,
gonna be a little long-winded.
that's
But
okay.
so yeah, so I like to do automatic writing and my sometimes it just kind of like before I even get in my room or light my candle, like I almost feel like the information wants to like pour out of me. So then I just start writing. But it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes when I'm setting up to do a reading for someone and I love not knowing anything about this person, but sometimes as my human brain clicks in and just like a little intimidated, like, oh well, where do I start? And so I usually use like cards in that way. Like I don't really read cards, but I'll pull a card or I'll pull two cards and I won't pay attention to what the meaning of that card is, but I pay attention to what my eye's drawn towards. Is it the bird? Why is it the bird? So I just start writing about the bird and what that bird means to me or what the feeling is I'm getting about the bird. Or maybe it's like the water. Well, maybe they need some fluidity in their life, or more blessings are being like coming into their life, like flowing into their life. So it just that's kind of how I get my gears started if I kind of feel a little stuck. But yeah, now channeling a lot of this this podcast is channeling, and we can't remember what we just said or I do the editing, so I'll be listening. I'm like, wow, that was really good. Like, I don't really remember that. But that's the same thing when I was like sitting at the park bench with my friend. It's just like, you don't always remember what you're channeling because you're kind of being used as a vessel to relay these messages for the person's highest good and the highest benefit of all involved. And those are like the intentions I even set. So I was gonna go somewhere else with that too. Oh yeah, so whenever I do channel, I notice like certain symptoms that I have. I don't know if you get physical symptoms, but also by doing the editing, and I knew this
I
ahead of
do.
time, but like I my right eye always goes wonky or watery. My voice kind of changes a little bit. Yeah, I get hot. Like I can feel the energy that's like moving through me. And it's a different kind of hot. It's not like a sweat hot. It's like just you just feel like almost you can feel like your heat.
It's on the
Yeah,
inside,
it's on
not
the
the
yeah, you feel
outside.
like your heat just like radiating or yeah,
Yes.
like through from inside your body. So
Yep.
there's like different symptoms, like my hands will start burning, like just the
Yep.
palms. So that's kind of the clues that I get like, oh, okay, this is a channeled message. This isn't directly from me. So maybe I should write it down so I remember it. Or it's, I call Melanie or something, just tell her so there's like a witness to what I'm saying because like I don't always remember it. Or so that's kind of the process I use um to practice, like to get to like it's channeling is a hard thing to practice because if you're not aware that you're doing it, so sometimes it's hard to catch, but that's why the symptoms are really important to like pay attention to. But I loved practicing with Uno cards. So I to me that like it was easier than a deck of just cards with like the four suits because the colors were so bright, the numbers are big, they're easy to visualize. There's some offset ones that like can kind of give you more options of like what you're trying to guess or not guess, but trying to uh intuitionally guess, I guess.
Dude, that
So
is so funny. I loved Uno cards because of how bright and colorful they were when
yeah.
I was a kid. I just loved when we played. I loved looking at the bright, pretty colors.
Yeah, because like whenever
That's
you want to
funny.
do like no, exactly that makes so much sense because when you want to do like the visual channeling, like because in meditation, some of the like I would get visuals and that's like the visual messages, but that's what the Uno cards help me to get my visual channeling because I could picture those cards so easily. So I would just
Yeah.
yeah pick a card, close my eyes, ask my higher self what card it is, trust that, and turn it over.
Yep.
And I mean, it was almost like a magic trick that I had for like, or a party trick I had for a while that I could like correctly guess each card, but it's because I was practicing with them and I just knew like I just trusted what became it was like green three. I'm like green three, I don't know. And it's like, oh, there it is, and it's just like trust what comes to you whenever you get those messages. And that was like a big lesson, even with like the Uno cards, just trusting the information you're receiving is real and it's from your higher self. It's not from you. And just, yeah, and say it. Like, I don't know, just learn to say everything.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just, that's one, another practice, but just like,
Well,
yeah,
that's
the trusting your,
acknowledging what
yeah,
you're getting,
yeah.
by repeating it, saying it out loud, or at least just thinking it through your head again.
Yeah. And that's why, like, even I started, even I wrote down a couple of the questions I used to like even ask myself. Um, because it was like I kind of went through my awakening until I pretty much met Melanie, like kind of solo. So I had to like do a lot of self practice. And I'd like ask myself, like, what does this mean to you? So, like, say I pull a card or I get a message. I'm like, well, okay, the message is like maybe moving. But what does that mean to me? I'm like, well, I'm not really looking to move right now, but maybe it's movement within my life. So like, and it, like your human brain wants to be like, well, you're trying to rationalize something, but it's like, no, you're being intuitionally fed information so you can kind of see where your thoughts go, and that's the message. Like, I don't know, I'm trying to make it as simple as possible because it really is just
Right.
that simple. It's just listening and understanding and trusting that like what
Yeah,
you're receiving
I
is
agree.
information. And I also ask myself, like, what do you notice? Do I notice like a change in my body? Do I have like a weird itch on my shoulder or on my head? Or like, just what do I notice? Like the feeling, do I feel like nervous about this message? Do I feel excited? Like, so I just like, what do you notice? And then
Yeah.
what draws your attention? So what word? Like sometimes it is just one word, but like it could be what's drawing your attention to this message. I don't know if that just kind of explains itself or if I need more of
And
a,
what emotions are you feeling when you're
yeah.
receiving the thought? Because really, when we're channeling, it seems like just thoughts in our head.
Yeah,
And that's why it's
exactly.
hard for people to decipher the difference between just a thought and channeling because they're so similar.
Yeah, and it's like, and then my last one, I was like, who is this for? Is this for me? Because like maybe I'm getting this moving message, but it's for Melanie, you know? And it's like, I'm like, is like, okay, well, this doesn't really resonate with me. Like, I can't really make it fit if that's the right word to even say. But then I'm like, oh, maybe it's not for me. So I'm like, who? And then whoever pops in my head, that's who it's for. Like, it's just trusting the information you're receiving.
Yes.
Our human brains want to complicate this so much, and even trying to explain it, I feel like I'm complicating it, but like it's as simple as just like, yeah, protecting yourself, clearing your mind, and listening. And I just think it's, yeah, important just to document what you're receiving too, because it's fleeting. It's like, that feeling of walking into a room and forgetting why you went into that room. That's basically what your brain feels like channeling. You're like, what did I just say? Like, what,
Yeah.
So it's like documenting it to me is like, that's how I started my writing. I'm like, I need to start writing these down. And then I'm like, oh, well, here I am. I didn't even realize I was doing channeled writings. So yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
where I
And
started with it.
I mean, I think that was a great way to start out because, and here's the thing, guys, I'm going to explain how I channeled as a teenager and how it's changed and I do it now because it's completely different, but kind of still yet the same. And it's natural to me personally. Plus, I didn't know that's what I was doing when I was a teenager, but looking back, it's still happening the same way now. I just know what it is.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I think a lot of people are going to probably relate with that. They're like, wait a second, that's what like,
yeah.
yeah.
And what's cool is we are all born as conduits. Okay. A conduit is the means of transmuting information from one place or person to another. All right. So it's like our brains. And I mean, this isn't like new information. Our brains are transmitters, they're receivers, they're antennas. Okay. It's meant to do all of this stuff, but we just were never taught that it was meant to do that. You know what I mean? Um, because we all have a natural ability to connect, to channel, and do all of these things. We're born that way. But like I was saying in the beginning, you have to learn how to step into that, right? And some people channel and don't even realize it. And Krissy already mentioned that earlier. Because you just think it's your own thoughts. You just think, oh, I was just thinking about something, and you downplay it because you either don't even know what that is, or you just don't think you have that kind of ability and things of that nature, right? But um, this is information coming in to your brain and mind from, I guess, just whatever source outside of yourself. I don't want to tell you guys what to believe it's coming from. It could be coming from God, if that's what you believe. It could be coming from Jesus, if that's what you believe. It could be coming from an angel. It could be coming from your dad that passed. It could be coming from your higher self. You can, wherever you think it's coming from, is wherever you think it's coming from. That's,
That's so true. Because like everyone,
up to
yeah,
you.
yeah, everyone wants to fit it into like a nice little box of like it's coming from a high, but like yeah, you can get messages from like I know sometimes I'm like I'm channeling like from I call on Archangel Gabriel or Gabrielle, however you want to say it, all the time
I go
because
with Gabriel, but some
yeah,
people do say
yeah,
Gabrielle.
yeah. And I just like because I know I'm like I'm long-winded. Sometimes I need to like find my words better, or I don't want to get distracted. I'm like I always say, like, help me with this message to relate in a clear, concise way. And then I just know that I just trust that my message is coming through that way. And because of him or her, they or them. So
Thank
yeah.
you. Gabriel was assigned to me at birth and is always with me. And I never thought about asking him to help me get clarity with what I'm channeling.
Oh yeah,
So I'm
he's
going
my
to start
go-to.
doing that.
Before we even like hop on this call, I always talk to him or her, but them. So yeah, just well, he's been my go-to of just like even before I do any readings, I'm like just thank you for because yeah, just thank you for helping me communicate clearly, and just yeah, it helps. And but yeah, you just never know. Like yeah, you can be channeling a deceased loved one. Like those
Yeah.
messages are for you, or if they are for someone else that might be a little more closed off, because we all are born this way. We are all born to channel to receive these messages. We're assigned spirit guides and guardian angels for a reason, not to ignore them, but to interact with them, to
Yeah.
call on them. But I don't want to religion bash, but like our society is so fear-based off of that stuff and off of that kind of mentality. And also we're so indoctrined into a religious belief of like of a community that like we're never really given, or very few people are given the chance of just figuring out spirituality on their own from a child to adulthood. We're always guided in some way, but it's always based off of someone else's beliefs or someone else's fears or someone else's
Right.
expectations. So it's yeah, we're all able to do it. It's just like kind of healing and re-unlocking that door.
Yeah. And I feel like all channeled information comes from the spirit realm. The spirit realm is just like the universe that we live in, okay? You can call it the universe, you call it the spirit realm, whatever you want to call it. But we live in this living organism of the universe, which is a part of something bigger outside of it, right? So we're in this universe channeling information from outside of it, from this other source of existence or consciousness, if you will. And so then from there, it gets really, really deep. And I don't have the know-how to explain it. Like I understand it, but I can't get the rest of it out into words.
Oh, that's like the hardest part about any of this. Like, my goal is like, even anytime I do a reading, I'm like, I want to leave that person understanding that they have the ability to do this because everyone does. And,
Yes.
um, but it's so hard to put it into words when, because it's an experience. It's not like a written out like like even just like my practices change, my beliefs change, like as I evolve and the messages that I get, the information I get, like it's constantly changing, so it's so hard to relay it in just like a standard way. But um I just yeah, that's why I just the simplified of just like listen to yourself. That's all I can
Yes.
kind of say just to keep it, yeah, like not intimidating.
Right. So basically, when I was a teenager, I was channeling quite a bit, but had no idea that's what I was doing. But yet I was still doing it because it felt natural to me. And so basically, what I was doing was, and the perfect example is when you have a crush on somebody, okay? You start tapping into that person's energy because you're thinking about them, right? And then I would just turn on the channeling without knowing it and start channeling through telepathic messages from the person I had a crush on. Right. And like, it's like they felt the same way and things like that. And here I thought I was making it all up, that I was just living this pretend fantasy, this make believe world, like I'm Mr. Rogers, the make believe land. Because I
Yeah.
love that show when
Love
I
it
was a little
too.
kid.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go live in that make believe land. But anyway, um, because of stuff like that I watched as a child, I was I taught myself, I guess you could say, that anything fairy tale landish that came out weird is made up, it's pretend, it's a fantasy. And I think that it's easy to convince yourself of that, especially because I didn't even know what channeling was. No one did back then. I mean, you
Right. And a
know.
lot of people are like, oh, you're just a kid. You just have an active imagination. But I'm like, nah, like it makes you second guess ever saying that to somebody.
Yeah, because then I would go tell one of my little friends, and she would be like, "Oh, whatever, he doesn't like you," or whatever. You know what I mean? And then I started to get subconsciously like embarrassed, I guess, is the way I want to say that. Um, and then I started being really secretive and private about the information I was channeling because it started happening more and more. But the one thing is that I want to say about when I was channeling as a teenager and a younger person is I had to be all alone in my room. No one could be in the room with me or around. And it was even better if I was home alone, just saying. Because it was much harder for me to connect back then, but I didn't know that's what I was doing. And that's probably why it was harder.
Hmm.
And I would have to play music. So I've always been a music person. Music helps me channel. It helps me pick up on messages coming in from outside of myself, using the song lyrics, letting the sounds make me feel emotions. And then I was taking what I was feeling and I was adding it to what I was hearing in the lyrics and adding that to what I was hearing in my mind. And it was like this whole like channeling process, I guess. And like, I guess it was just like more of me being, what's the word I'm looking for? Conditioned into channeling because I was meant to always grow up and be the psychic medium. It's even in my freaking birth chart. I'm just saying. But I just didn't know any of that back then.
Yep.
So it was like I was being led into learning how to do what I was always meant to learn how to do. And it didn't matter if I knew what I was doing or not. So maybe you've already been connecting and channeling and doing things of that nature, but you've been viewing it differently or viewing it as if it was something else. Or maybe you were thinking that you were making stuff up or that it wasn't true. It was just your brain telling a tale or going off on a tangent or whatever. Um, and I'm here to tell you that no, you're not. You're channeling. Okay.
Yeah.
Because then as I got older, I realized that I was picking up on people's thoughts, is how I viewed it. I still didn't know what channeling was or even knew that word, but I was like, oh my gosh, I'm reading people's minds. I am tapping into people's minds and reading their thoughts. And so that's also reading energy too. Like, I guess channeling goes along with like reading energies as well, because that's reading emotions and, you know,
Yeah, I
um,
totally agree. Like yeah, it's the whole big picture, but it kind of all
yeah,
happens on its own. Like you don't really have to try. It just, yeah, as you're deciphering your
yeah.
channel message, you're kind of automatically deciphering the energy and just, yeah, it's like all part of the process.
Yeah. And I didn't know what reading energy was. No one did. you know, not back then. And so, again, Spirit's really making me emphasize to you guys that even though I did not know what any of that stuff was, I was still doing it. Why? Because we're born to do it, because we
Yep.
are born with the abilities to do that. So
Yep.
it doesn't matter if you know, you're still going to do it, you know? And then and I never figured out for the longest time that I was psychic and that I was reading people's minds and reading people's energies and channeling in all this information from outside of myself. And it was very crazy and chaotic, very confusing, off putting. It put me in a negative energy a lot of the time because I'm getting all of these channeled messages, but then nothing is happening. It's like, okay, so say like I was getting messages from someone that I had a crush on, and they feel the same way as me. They love me. They this, they that, reading their minds, reading their thoughts. But then I see the person, they won't even look at me or talk to me. And so it got like frustrating. So I guess
Yeah.
after a while of not knowing why I was doing what I was doing, what it was meant for, it did get frustrating and kind of upsetting. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. That's why, like, I think it's so important for us to even like talk about it because this is such a broad subject, and every book you read, every podcast, or like everyone's gonna have a different take on it. But like our intention for this topic is just to simplify it and like to make it like you realize that it's real. Like when that person pops into your head, it's not for no reason. Like maybe reach out to them, or maybe it's a reminder of a lesson you learned with them. Like there's a reason for everything, and just trust that there's a reason for everything. My number one advice would just be to be patient, that it doesn't happen like the movie show. And I just think the movies, Hollywood does such a disservice to the spiritual community of like mediumship and psychic abilities and channeling and even meditation. Like
Yes.
it just does such a disservice because it sets up this unrealistic expectation. And
Mm.
also watching it, it feeds our ego side of like, oh, well, I can do that, or if I like, but you have to set your ego aside. You have to just trust, and you just have to be patient because, yeah, having an expectation of how it should happen or how it looks or how you've seen other people do it is not going to be the same for you. And yeah, my end of last year, beginning of this year, I've just kind of gotten the message over and over again, like trust and have faith. And it's just like whenever you're starting to like to channel and you really want to start opening up spiritually, just trust and have faith. It's that simple. And it'll all just be so clear to you. It's just like we sometimes energetically get in our own way. And we're sometimes our own worst enemy, whatever when it comes to spiritual or mediumship or psychic abilities, like we're our own worst enemy. So just be patient
Yeah.
and just trust and have faith that what you're experiencing is real, it's meaningful, and the more you trust it, the more natural it feels and the more flow it comes out. And yeah, just I don't know. But like that's what
Yeah,
you can say, like,
absolutely.
yeah, and like you can always reach out to us if you want to practice. Like I've been the sitter for many mediumship groups, and it's just like a gallery and people are just like getting what they get on you, and they're sharing like we that's the community that we want to help feed, you know?
Yeah. And, I'm feeling called to share this because Spirit's like, tell them this. But this is for someone out there. And we all have different life experiences. Okay. But sometimes there's a reason why things happen the way that they do. And for me personally, the reason why I was held in the dark, so to speak, from knowing that I was psychic and was channeling in real information from other people's minds, thoughts, energies, outside sources, was because I was going to have to go through my drug addict era. And spirit, I already was powerful enough at manipulating and things like that while under the influence, you know, but spirit didn't want me to open up and understand anything further so that I didn't use it for bad, I guess is what I feel like. Or that I may use that and it may have hurt me. It may have put me in a negative position in my life. And it's going to be different for everybody, right? But like, as soon as I got off the drugs, cleaned up my life, changed my whole persona. I moved, I um changed everything, my job, my phone number, my location.
Your
I healed
relationship. Yeah.
all of it. Yes, I changed all I dumped everybody I knew and just up and left, right? And basically from that point on, I was kind of like cut off for a while, and I like would have never known I was psychic. I thought, oh well, whatever was going on in the past when I was younger, I guess that's done now, whatever that was, blah blah blah. No, it was because I moved into my dark night of the soul era. All
Hmm.
right. Had to get off the drugs and clean up the mind so that I could heal properly and go through the process of what was the next phase. And then after going through that, I really opened back up to my channeling abilities and then started learning more about spirituality and being psychic. And things were just slowly being introduced to me through channeling. I'm just saying. And all along, I had no idea what was going on. So when I say that we're born this way, I don't know how better to reiterate that. Like I was a confused, lost soul for a long time.
Right.
Right. But still, yet, the little bit of channeling and abilities I did have access to carried me through until I got to my healing era and was, just better mind, body, and soul and physically living a better life. You know what I mean?
I think that was so important for you to share because like we talked to every age group and a lot of younger people like I was very psychic as a kid, but then like 18 to like 28 I was survival mode. I mean, like it's just like I didn't
Yes. Oh my
yeah,
God, what a nightmare.
yeah, like it was not the easiest time. And I was like an unparented child trying to be a grown up, kind of starting a grown-up life in the negative, not, just like so like clawing my way out of my past, but so like I had to shut it down. But like I mean it was still there here and there and like some guidance, but like my focus was on like survival basically for like that decade. But then I just kind of I even recently had like a reflection of like how just a reminder, and one thing like I channeled was I kept getting even like signs and just the thought of this. I told you about this cartoon that I loved growing up, and all my
Oh
siblings,
yeah.
I'm one of five, they were all like, they would complain every time the show came on. It was called David the Gnome. And it was like from the 80s. I loved it. And I didn't really remember the show. So I'm like, why am I like this is recent, like within the past like 2 weeks. I'm like, why do I keep getting the message like David the Gnome, David the Gnome? And so I finally found it on YouTube. And I was watching it and I'm like, oh my gosh, the purpose is that like David the Gnome is a healer. He's a doctor. He has a magical fox that helps him spread his healing throughout many countries. And
And that
he
fox could represent a spirit guide, just saying.
yeah, 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 right? Exactly. And like he hypnotizes animals to do surgery on them or he helps them, but then also his wife is like a witch and she can like mix up brews and different spells and is always there to like help him and
Potions.
yeah, and there's just so much to it. I just like so I watched like a couple episodes and I was like this is like just a reminder of simple, like how simple like it's our lives are so complex that just it was my reminder just go back to the simple times of like what like kind of like channeling my childhood of that this was all in me this entire time and that
Yes.
decade was my decade of lessons. And I think a lot of people feel
Yeah.
uncomfortable having a decade of lessons and a decade of experiences, hurt, dark days, but like it's just like those times like nothing lasts forever, not the good times or the bad. So like in those bad times or negative times or low vibrational times, like I'm grateful for them now in hindsight, but I know it was like a part of the process because I would not be a complete person if I didn't go through all of that. So the David the Gnome was just like
Exactly.
it was always there, we were always there, and now we're working together instead
And
of
it was set up like that on purpose, just for you
yeah.
specifically. And mine was just for me specifically. So it's going to vary from person to person, but there's going to be similarities too with some people,
Yeah, and
you know?
we're human, and like that doubt creeps in, but then we'll always get the sign or always get guided in a way to re reconfirm that this is all real. Like this is more real than our perceived reality of our lives. And it just,
right?
like yeah, that I'm on the right
I feel
path.
like it
Yeah.
goes way further too into like we're channeling in information through everything around us too, because spirit or the source outside of herself, where it all comes from, is using everything around us as well to channel in information like nature, weather, something written on a billboard sign you drive past. Like, you know what I mean?
Angel
And
numbers.
Spirit, yeah, and Spirit was doing that with you with that little show about the gnome guy, and you
Yeah.
were just a little cutie pie. What, you were like 4 probably?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like 3 or 4.
This
And I
already
remember loving it,
tuning
but
you into your healing abilities.
yeah, so just like yeah, like all of that's channeled messages. It's like that simple. But I have a friend who I'm kind of helping. Like she just got sober and she's started like once with her sober mind, she's like, Krissy, I'm like I'm awake. Like I need help because it was just like she's been getting um so much communication from like her higher self and like just psychically, and she doesn't know what to do with a lot of it, and a lot of it she's still questioning. So I see her, here like probably like twice a month, and we'll have like a conversation. I'm trying to like not mentor her, but like I'm always there, like just because with Melanie, I'm like, oh, I went through that too. It's just like nice to have someone understand the process of like awakening. And she just had one the other day where her friend was telling her story about like, oh, I just like my sister's boyfriend's so sweet. He thinks of her all the time and does all these like really sweet things. Like he just did something like so simple and sweet for her. Oh, but she's like, I can't remember what it was. And then my friend was like, oh, like just bringing home a Diet Coke from McDonald's, like just, on his way home from work. And she's like, that's exactly what it was. Like he would stop at McDonald's and bring her home a Diet Coke, like on his way home from work sometimes. And that like little moment for her was huge. She's like, why did I say that? Where did that come from? I'm like, you channeled that. You got that, like that's you tapping into your psychic abilities and trusting, and that like I've blurted out some of the most random things, and like people, like the person or someone around me would be like, why would you say that? That's amazing. Like that really means something. Or that was like my son's favorite car or something. It just, you just never know the information you're getting, and it's like really just that simple.
Yes.
It's just like, yeah, just say
Oh
it.
my gosh. Yes, that happens to me all the time. And I didn't trust it as much back in the day, but now I do. But I've always my whole life will just blurt something out and then be like, why did I say that? That was so weird. And then next thing you know, somebody's like, "Oh, I can't believe you just said that
Yeah,
because that meant so much to me because of this, that, and the other." And I'm like, really? Because I kind of felt stupid for saying that or whatever it was.
exactly. I know. And I had that happen to me. It was like I was on the phone with a lady, and I recently lost my friend, and we're like planning her memorial. And she said something just nonchalantly on the phone, but to me it was like so meaningful. It was so validating. It was healing. And it was one sentence this lady would just like blurted out, and she almost apologized for it because it sounded like something kind of rude, but it was like, oh, it was like it was exactly what I needed to hear. And so
Aw.
yeah, so just I you can get channeled messages even from other people because,
Yep.
sometimes life gets in the way of our spirituality in a way. So like,
Yeah.
in that moment I wasn't getting the message. I felt very blocked from the whole topic. And so for her to say that, I was like, that's what I needed. And I was like, okay. And then I just like I was opened up again, because I was just, yeah.
Yes.
It's
Thank you for
yeah,
sharing that
yeah.
because that's another thing, you guys. You can receive channeled information through other people around you, as well as through everything around you, like nature and weather and things that you see. Okay. Because sometimes when you ain't getting it, Spirit's like, hold up, send this person in and make them say this really rude thing to them to wake them up. Okay,
Yeah.
that's channeled. That's channeled through just for you. Okay,
Yep.
like I had that happen to me. I have a great example because I'm very open about being a drug addict for a long time in the beginning of my life because it's part of my healer's journey. Okay,
Hmm.
so it was an important part of how I came to be who I am today. And it's 3:33 right now. So there's some more angel numbers for you guys. All right. So basically, crap, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Um,
Your
the
addiction.
3:33
Yeah. It was like something, yeah, like
messed me up. Um,
Oh, well, this actually, you know what? This is a very important thing I wanted to say too that I totally forgot to even write down, but I thought of it when I was driving this morning. And
oh,
so,
what?
like, along with like channel messages, like how you're taking a pause and you're trying to like you're just being patient and just like letting your mind do its thing and just like it whenever you channel like in the movies they're always like "Ba-da-da-da-da," but like no, it's like a lot of times I like if I do a reading or I'm even doing a writing, it's not like I'm just like doing a writing and I just don't set the pen down for like 15 minutes. I'm just like I'm writing the whole time. It's like no, it's like I might write a sentence and then I'll just like kind of see what I'm getting. And like those pauses are important. And I just think a lot of people have the expectation that it's just going to flow through like conversation, but these
Yeah,
pauses and this time that you take to really receive the message, digest it before you share it, or it just that's part of the process too. So I don't know,
yeah.
it's just kind of
Oh,
funny
I
that like yeah,
remember.
your
I
pause made me
remembered
remember that.
a minute ago, but basically, what I wanted to explain was this was back in the drug addict days, and this friend of my dad's, some older dude, right? I barely knew him. He barely knew me. Okay. Was alone with me in my dad's garage. And just all of a sudden, out of nowhere, started going off on me about being a piece of crap and that my life was trash being a drug addict and that I would never amount to anything or be anything if I didn't just quit and like get it together and learn how to be a responsible adult and do something, change your life, blah blah blah. And I have people say stuff like that to me all the time and it never affected me until that day when this strange man that I barely knew went off on me. And to me, that now looking back, that was channeled in like from God, from my angels, my spirit guides, my dead
I was gonna
grandparents,
say it's your grandma.
whoever going off on me because I was ignoring whatever they were sending me about getting my crap together.
Right.
Right. And like, that's how like, say some stranger says something to you and it leaves this huge mark on you. That was channeled in from outside of them for you specifically for a reason. Does that person know that they channeled you in for? No, no, they don't know. They don't know, but they were used by spirit because we're all spirits and we're all connected.
Yeah. It's just like that it's it's part of the awakening that I don't think anyone really talks about. At least I've never heard anyone talk about it before, of just like the extra awareness. And it can be kind of exhausting and overwhelming in the beginning because like when you do choose to be awake, because it's a choice, and I think you start seeing the world differently. You start every interaction has more meaning or a lesson. Like you start like I think it just naturally your vibration raises as you're seeing this, you're going through the world, understanding that the messages are of love and
Yeah,
lessons and protection and guidance instead of it's not criticism from a person. It's something you needed to hear, or how do
yeah,
you turn that message into something positive into your life? Like, I don't know. I was even trying to think of like another example, but just yeah, going through my day, I just experienced my world differently, being aware of it. There's a higher purpose, a higher meaning, a higher communication. And so whenever
yeah,
if I do see a bird, I'm like, oh, that's a little like nod from a loved one. Or if I have a difficult conversation, I'm like, oh my gosh, like look at my growth and my healing. It's just like like I don't want to put meaning like so much emphasis that there's meaning in everything, but like you really start to naturally noticing the meaning in everything. And in the very beginning, it's exhausting. She's like, oh my gosh, there's meaning in everything. I can't take it. Can I just go back to like the simpler times? But like
right?
But you adjust, and it eventually just starts raising your vibration, and then everything just kind of falls into place for you in a way.
Yes, and speaking of vibrations, it's like everything is orchestrated for you in your specific life and experience. And going back to when that guy went off on me like that day, it made me angry because it triggered me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was low vibrational, it turned into anger, right? Because when you're low vibrational and you get triggered, typically you get angry or afraid or both. And like I knew what he said was true and it scared me. I didn't want to have to hear it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
needed to hear it. But what's funny is he was just used as a pawn to channel through information to me that I needed to receive. And he didn't care about my well being. He
Right.
didn't give a crap about if I was going to get off drugs or not. He was fighting with me over who was going to drink my dad's last beer while my dad was taking a nap. So
Mm-hmm.
he went off on me about being a piece of crap and needing to get off drugs and alcohol because he was an alcoholic and wanted that last beer that wasn't even his to begin with. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Like the whole picture, like it doesn't make sense, but it makes so much sense, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think that's
And
what
I
a
thought,
lot
how
of
dare him tell me when he just wanted my dad's last beer? Right? But it worked.
hmm
Spirit used him and it worked because the triggering angered me, which then fueled me. And then it started the process of my mind thought of changing my life. And eventually, a few years down the road, I did change my life. So, channeling is a really powerful thing, you guys. And I keep reiterating here, even if you don't know it's happening, it's still happening and it's happening to help you.
Yep, very true. Well, I have another question for you. So, how do you end a channeling session? Because it's I don't think like I personally I just like I can be open kind of all the time, but like if I'm purposely channeling for a reading or for myself or for clarity, how do you like we said how we open our kind of practice, but how do you close yours?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. So mine doesn't stop. It's exhausting. I'm going to
Yeah.
put that right out there now. It's exhausting. Mine doesn't stop. It doesn't ever turn off. The way ended it in the past when I was younger was I would go back around other people. If I was alone, I was channeling and tapping in. If I was around other people, I could turn it off and forget about it because I didn't even know what it was. Now that I know what it is, it doesn't stop, it doesn't turn off, there is no ending to it. So the only way for me to temporarily take a break is to go watch a movie, which I'm still going to channel some through watching the movie, but it's way less because I focus more on what's happening in the movie and the fact that I'm watching a movie for entertainment. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, it's like if I'm talking to, then going around people just makes it worse now for me. So in the past, that helped me turn it off. But now, if I'm around people, it's heightened. When I'm listening to music, it's heightened. So it's more of a factor for me that what heightens it that I need to not do right now. Like yesterday, I was going to listen to music, and then I was like, I'm too exhausted mentally to listen to music.
Yeah.
Even though I want to enjoy the music, I can't not channel while I'm listening. So I have to take a break. And other psychic people say the same thing about music. Music is intense. So if you're
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
learn how to channel, use music because it is a great tool for that.
Oh my gosh, I like when I drive in the car, I can't have music on anymore because it's too intense. Like, and I'm
It
already
is.
channeling because driving brings it out of me. And then with the like, so I'm like the old lady now. It's like driving around in silence,
Like,
but up
turn
here it's
down
not
the
silent.
radio. I can't see.
I'm like, it might seem silent, but yeah, it's very noisy for me. But I like in the beginning, I was always kind of afraid to set up like boundaries because I like any and close down ever because I'm like, well, it took me this long to reopen up, but like that was fear based. Um, but I make sure I have certain times. I'm like, whenever I'm with my son, I don't want to channel, and I have my guides and I tell them my boundaries and my kind of restrictions. But I also do just love channeling like all the time. I love seeing what I get, and I love seeing such the meaning in life and the world. And that's just kind of how my brain works anymore. So I agree that, like, yeah, you can stay open, but you can always have the power and the authority to put boundaries up. Like when even like maybe 2 years ago, I was like, all right, I'm only receiving messages from the time I brush my teeth in the morning to the time I brush my teeth at night. And then just leave me alone the rest of the night, because I just want some rest. Because I mean, at least for me, when I first started really waking up with like psychic abilities and mediumship abilities, my dreams were exhausting. I wasn't getting any sleep because at night I was either getting woken up by something, or I was being communicated. Like it was just nonstop. So I'm like, just for my peace of mind with my sleep, I just need to. But it's kind of calmed down a little bit more, I think, because I'm more active during the day of actually actively channeling, actively doing readings and everything. But yeah, there's times that it like really kept me from being present. So that's when I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, well, I'm going to my son's game. I'm not going to channel here. Like put up my barriers, which
Oh my
a lot of
gosh.
times
You
well,
just said it right there too.
no,
Um, that's crazy. Sorry, keep going.
it's okay. Go ahead.
You just made me have this whole epiphany. No, go ahead and finish.
Okay. I'm like, I love an epiphany. So that's what I'm like, yeah. Um, but like for me, whenever I intentionally do a channeling session for like writing or anything, I usually end up I blow, or I don't blow out my candle. I snuff out my candle, and then I say like, may
Always.
the smoke from this candle represent God's pure white light in my life and me, that whole thing. I do surround, ground, and shield, and then I also do my energy protection of calling back my energy and disconnecting any energy that's not mine. And I kind of just keep it that simple. That's just my energy protection in general, but also I want to just disconnect the energy that I was connecting to, whether it be the person I'm reading or even my higher self. I just want to disconnect so I can kind of move on with my human life, not always my spiritual one, and kind of just have that. So those are my kind of practices. I'm trying to think if I really do anything else. Yeah, but I always think I'm always like thankful. I'm like, thank you for those messages. I'm grateful for them. Thank you for the healing I received during this. So whatever kind of comes to your mind, because it's different for me every time. I don't really have a standard. It's like what I'm feeling is what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
so, but I just make sure I do that energy protection before and after. So that's kind of how I do it. And then just, yeah, I set up my energy
Yeah. I do
protection.
my energy protection in the morning before I even get out of bed because I'm in the astral realm every night. So when I wake up, it takes me like 20 minutes of laying there with my eyes closed before I can even open my eyes and step out of bed. So I go ahead and I do my protection stuff
Hmm.
right then because I know that I'm going to be connected all day.
Right.
There
Yeah.
is no not connecting. But you made me have an epiphany. Maybe all I really need to do is just ask my spirits to close it down for me for a little bit so I can have a break because it's exhausting.
Oh, you'll
Always being
notice a huge,
open.
yeah.
Like it never ends.
Like when you're watching a movie, just like thank you to my angels and my guides, my protectors that close down my channeling abilities or my psychic abilities while I watch this movie, so I can just enjoy the movie, or while I'm out on a date, or just depending on like what you're doing. Because yeah, but it opens back up. All you have to say is like,
Right?
and
Like
yeah,
I'm
so
sitting
you
here
can
last
take
night trying
breaks.
to watch this movie and all these messages from this person in my energy keep and I'm like, stop. I just want to watch this movie.
Yeah, you should take breaks too. Just
These
energy.
messages right now.
Yeah, 'cause you just don't want it to wipe you out. Like how, yeah, it's not because being on all the time is exhausting.
Right?
So yeah, I just think that's important for you to like, yeah, to know just, yeah, and you can say it however you want to say it. I say it kind of differently every time depending on the who I'm going to be around or what I'm going to, or I'm like,
I'm
I don't
pretty
mind like
bossy with
important
mine.
messages. Yeah, and I'll even say like if I'm in
Spirit
public, I'm
says
like,
to be bossy. I
yeah.
don't want to be rude with them. And they're like, listen, you need to firmly state your intentions. Be bossy because you
Mhm.
are the boss of you. And
Yeah.
so I had to get over that. Oh, I feel like I'm being demanding. And they're like, stop it. You need to demand what you want. So
Yeah.
I would say something like, turn my stuff off right now. I need a break.
Mine's a
Oh,
little more
man.
just like, thank you. Thank you for keeping, yeah, or just like, thank you for keeping any messages I might receive at this time until like,
Are
but
we like the darkness and the light? Because you're definitely all light over there.
but
No,
like,
I used to be very all light, but I had to learn how to embrace both. And Krissy's going through that now. She's learning how to embrace the dark aspects of herself where she can set boundaries and stand up for herself and tell people no, because it doesn't mean you're not a nice person if you need to tell somebody no. I'm just
right,
saying. That just was a
exactly.
side note. I don't know.
No, that's just like more of the untraining we have to do of our brains, so.
Yeah, for real.
But if I'm
So,
gonna be in public, I'm gonna be around like other people. I'll say like I'm gonna
yeah.
close down my gifts and my abilities for this time period. But I can even say like if there's someone who really needs a message, or if there's an important message that you can use me to relate to somebody, feel free to use me in those moments for those special moments. But I just don't want to be hearing everything.
You're so
So you can,
sweet.
yeah, you're in charge. You're the holder of the or the maker of the rules, and so yeah, just know that like yeah, you're the boss.
Yeah. Well, my North Node is Leo, so I am supposed to be that bossy bitch. It's in my birth chart. I don't I gotta do what I gotta do.
Oh my gosh, every time I try to be bossy, I'm always like, oh, that doesn't like.
Oh, I was born bossy. My mom said I was 3 years old telling everybody what to do already. So I wrote down a little list. I thought I could read off one thing at a time and we could kind of put our little input into it on how to learn how to channel and how to or strengthen your already existing channeling abilities if you're already acknowledging it. And the first thing is regular meditation. I mean, meditation, and she's the expert on this. It really connects you to you and source and your higher self and your messages, your channeling abilities, your psychicness, your intuitiveness, all of that. So, I mean, that's imperative.
And it's important because it works the muscle of your brain that helps you clear your mind. And for channeling, your mind needs to be clear. And that's what a lot of people struggle with. I'll even say the affirmation over and over again. I'm like, clear my mind. Nope, clear my mind. Like another thought will pop in. I'm like, nope, clear my mind, Or I
Yeah.
even do like I disconnect the emotion from that memory. It no longer serves me. So I acknowledge that thought and I let it go. But that's just to help me clear my mind for whatever I might be receiving or what I am receiving.
Yes. And I'm glad you said that because here's one thing, guys. If you're having trouble connecting and channeling in information, it may be because you have racing thoughts that never stop because you may be anxious, living in a fear based energy at this time, or whatever is going on, you're stressed about stuff or something. And if you have these racing, anxious thoughts going through, it's going to block you from being able to channel in other information that's needed or needs to come through because those racing thoughts are going to take over because they're in
Yeah.
that lower vibrational energy that's just going to like super exceed more positive channeled messages trying to come in.
Yeah, and just like another reminder that you're in control. You're the boss. You can say thank you to my higher self, my angels, my guides for helping me clear my mind so I can for this channeled message. Or you can just yeah, say like I give these like thoughts and this distractions like up to God and it's just for God to hold while I'm doing this. Like you can say it in so many different ways, but like you set the rules. So if you're really struggling with clearing your mind, call on your spirit team. They will help you.
Yes. So the next thing is staying grounded and balanced. And it goes with what we were already just saying with the meditation. You need to meditate, but the purpose behind it is to get grounded and balanced because you can't connect properly if you're not all of those things,
Right.
right?
Yep, exactly.
So also using visualization. I say that word wrong every time. Using visualization. I still said it wrong. You guys know what I'm saying. Techniques. Okay. So, right.
I'm not
So,
even gonna try because I'm gonna mess it up
is that because
too.
I'm channeling?
Yeah.
Like when I channel and I get really deep, like doing readings, I will say words backwards. I will mix up a half of a word with another half of a word, and all kinds of weird stuff like that. That's another telltale sign that you're deep into a channeled message,
Hmm.
okay, that you're channeling through, because I don't really know the exacts and why that happens, but I watch a lot of psychics online on doing tarot and stuff, and I've heard like so many of them also do mess up their words the same exact way that I do. And there's something to that if we're all doing it, you
I think
know?
it's a translation because like they're speaking our language. So like it's a translation and that's why like sometimes even like I'll get a visual and I'm like I can't put it into words even though it might just be
Yeah.
a visual of a tree, but I'm like but it was
Yes.
not just a tree, there's so much more. So like I think it's like lost in translation kind of like the jumble of the words.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I just wanted to say that back in the day when I was channeling, I used visualization, dang it, to get things going. I guess I can't say that word today.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can
I
say
know.
that word
Might need to
though, just
retire
not
that one.
today. Yikes. But anyway, um, I that's how I would like open up to it, because if you've never purposely done it, it's like learn how to ride a bike. You got to figure out how you do it because everybody
Mhm.
does it different, right?
Right.
And like, so in order for like, I would be like, okay, I want to like get into this person's energy that I'm crushing on, because it was always about a crush when I was a teenager. I mean, of course. And so I would go alone in my room, turn on my music that made me think of them, and then I would start visualizing them from school that day. Okay. Oh, I passed them in the hallway 2 times. So I'd visualize us passing each other in the hallway over and over and over again. And it eventually would connect me and I would start channeling through information. Now, when I'm channeling, I still use the visualizations. I got it. And but they come naturally. I don't have to focus so hard to force the visualization to happen anymore. It just naturally comes along with the channel messages now. Like I'll see something pop up at the same time I'm hearing something or feeling something. You know what I mean?
Totally. I never thought about it that way, but that's totally what, yeah, it's like the progression of it, because they like your spirit team understands that like our brain is different, like our existence is different than what our experiences are spiritually. So it's like it has, yeah, they have to cross that kind of threshold. And yeah, so yeah, I think a lot of times it does start off with like a visual or just even a single name and then it'll progress, but it's because yeah they understand they don't overwhelm you in the very beginning and scare you or just like make you feel like you're a crazy person.
Yeah. And say there's someone in your energy because they're crushing on you. And I know I always go with the romantic, but it's just perfect examples for everything all the time. You're seeing their name everywhere. You're
Mhm.
seeing the car that they drive everywhere. You're hearing their favorite song all the time, where you're like, boy, I feel like this person following me around. Well, they're in your energy for some reason, and you're channeling that. You're
Yeah.
channeling information telling you, hey, this person's all up in your energy for whatever reason, and you're receiving this channeled information about them to let you know because they're projecting and or purposely even sending you that energy, which is giving you this channeled information, which it's so weird, but like it happens all the time. And I think that's another one that people really downplay, that like
Oh
you
yeah.
keep hearing somebody's name everywhere and you're like, boy, I feel like so and so is following me everywhere I go. Well, they kind of are energetically, and you're receiving channeled information about that because there's something going on there that you need to know about.
Yep, those are like the nudges that are
Yeah,
a lot in the beginning, and then when I get those even now, I'm like, oh, I need to set some time aside and dive deeper and do like an intentional kind of channeled writing or yeah, meditation or something to kind of understand the purpose of why I'm seeing this person in my energy or
yeah,
what do they want? What do they need? What can, and yeah, I think a lot of it just those are the nudges. So don't ignore the nudges because that's just to nudge you to like remind you to take time maybe later in the day or even when you're falling asleep, just to your energy protection and just say like, why is this person in my energy today? Or why am I thinking of this person today? Um, and you might get it through thoughts or you might even get it through dreams that night, so yeah,
yeah,
just keep it simple. If it seems complicated, you're complicating it,
yeah, for real. I think that I was overly complicating it back in the day because I didn't know what it was, which
Hmm.
was putting a more negative kind of energy towards me trying to channel. Because
Yeah,
I was one of those people, like, if I didn't fully understand something, then I just felt like I didn't know anything about it. Do you know what I mean?
right,
Like somebody tried to like bring up something I didn't know anything about. I'll be like, I don't know anything about that. I don't want to talk about that.
right.
Like kind of how I was when I was younger. So I was making it more difficult for myself. So don't make it more difficult for yourself, by downplaying it or trying to ignore it because you don't understand it. Try to understand it, but understand it at the level that you perceive it at. Don't let anyone else tell you how to understand it or how to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely complicated it a lot in the beginning, but I also said I like come from like a religious background, and I think a lot of my complication was out of fear. Also out of like more of a fear of like judgment from other people, or just it's so against everything I was ever told I was allowed to do, or that would keep me from going to heaven, and like it just like there's so much like religious indoctrination. Oh my gosh, there we go again. But then, it's also like there's a lot of ceremony in religion. There's a lot of have tos in religion, but that's religion. Now I had to like
Yeah.
kind of over years, like I shed that away. And sometimes I'm even like, is my surround ground and shield too much? I'm like, no, that's just my energy protection, but it takes a minute. It's not like I'm kneeling and splashing water and, you know, just doing all this extra stuff. Like to me, these are just like my comforts. And just also, this is how I signal my brain and my body that I'm ready to sit down and channel. It's not necessarily out of ceremony, but it's out of like, yeah, protection and intention. And, but yeah, in the beginning, I complicated it so much. I'm like, well, I have to do this and I have to do this. I have to make sure this is covered. I have to make sure I say this exact word. But, it's just, yeah, it just, it's simple. It's more
Yeah.
natural than religion.
I think simplifying things in your own mind really helps to uncomplicate. And
Mhm.
when I first started my spirituality journey about 5, 6 years ago, I was like, I want to learn everything and know everything. And then I started like looking into what all spirituality entails. And there was angel numbers and numerology, spirit animals, talking to dead people, channeling, meditation, protection, reading energy, reading
Astrology.
tarot. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed right now. So don't let yourself get overwhelmed and then halt your progress. You
Yeah,
know, baby steps, one thing at a time. If you're interested in channeling, focus wholeheartedly on learning how to channel and get to a point where you're comfortable with it and then be like, okay, what do I want to move on to and learn now? You know what I mean? I tried to
right.
learn it all at once because I'm psycho, whatever. That's the Leo in me, trying to see it all.
Here
And
I am. I'm just like, yeah, I'm cool with just channeling. Like I have cards. I don't really read them. And when we first
right.
met, it was like you're gonna teach me how to read cards, and we never have just because we haven't had to, I guess, in a
I
way.
know.
We just haven't gotten there yet. But I use the cards as my prompts, and that's, I think. yeah, these are tools and they're meant to be used to help you in whatever way that they are helpful to you. So just because like you can read cards and you have the ability to just get all this knowledge and utilize it. I'm like, for me, that intimidates me. And also I prefer just kind of going off the cuff a bit. So yeah,
Which is even better. I mean, not
I don't
saying
think
it's
better,
bad
but
to
like,
read cards, but you're going off your intuition, which I use the cards to kind of cheat in the
I don't think it's
beginning
cheating. I'm
because I
like,
couldn't go off my intuition so doing reading for someone else. For me, I could, but that was different. Now the cards help me learn how to use my intuition. Now I read intuitively, I read energy, I'm reading the cards,
yep.
I'm channeling all at once. So, and Krissy, you do know how to read cards. You just don't know tarot because you don't know the definitions, is all.
Yeah, and I just kind of have this like blockage, like I just like kind of refusal to learn. I don't know why, but also I just think it's still part of my like healing religion recovery journey of like
I
cards
think
were
you
just
should learn how
so,
to read tarot intuitively
yeah.
because that's how it's really supposed to be read. And people focus too much on the card definitions.
Hmm.
Every card has like 20 something different meanings to it. And I've learned it all over the time of reading and everything. But a lot of times I intuitively read from the images on the cards,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have anything to do with what the card meanings actually are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I read them now, but yeah, they were also just like kind of a gray area for me in the beginning, but now I'm open to it. It just, yeah, but
I couldn't open up. I tried to read tarot intuitively without learning the definitions, and it was a no go because I have that mindset like, I don't understand it, you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why
So
I think
I
we,
had to learn the meanings, and now
yeah,
I can read like a champ with tarot, but that was my personal process. Not everyone's like me because I'm
yeah,
weird and
exactly.
different.
That's why everyone's experience with this is going to be different. That's why we're just kind of giving you like examples, I guess. They're just like, yeah, this, yeah, just to kind of pave your own way.
But yeah, what I was trying to get to, though, talking about doing readings and stuff, is you can, any of you guys out there watching, you can channel in information for yourself, doing like, you can call that doing a psychic reading for yourself is what channeling is. It's getting
Yeah.
psychic information for yourself and others, but you don't have to do it for others. I've got a sneeze starting, so this is, they wanted me to really share this. But it's channeling in information for you, because what is channeling for? It's meant to create this template or this guideline for you and your life and reaching your purpose, what you came here to do, because we all came here with a purpose, but we don't know what it is until we get there and figure it out. And the channeling was given to us as an ability to use to help us get there.
Hmm.
So if you look at it less as woo woo paranormal kind of stuff and more as life guidance, then maybe that could help some of you view it in a different light, you know?
Right. Because it's coming from yourself, like your higher self,
Yeah.
like, yeah. So just, yeah.
And it's meant to help you.
Yeah, exactly. That's why my son's 11 and he's like, I don't really want to do this and see ghosts and stuff anymore. I'm like, well, don't shut down
Oh, poor
everything
baby.
because, yeah. But I'm like, you want
Sound
to
like
keep your
my son when he was
intuition.
little. It scared
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, but I think we're making headway though too.
Oh,
Yeah, he doesn't get as scared. He kind of finds it more fascinating, but like he's just like he doesn't he wants to be a kid and he just wants to see the world through a kid's eyes, not always its psychic eyes. But I always tell him like he's in control of it. But yeah, I tell him like don't shut down everything because you want to keep that intuition. You're open because that's going to keep you alive through being a teenager.
well, you can tell Milo for me that Tyler went through that too, and it scared him too, and he didn't like it. And as soon as he turned, I think 17 or 18, he says to me one day, Mom, all my psychic abilities turned off and I don't see ghosts anymore. And I was like, what? And then Spirit just reminded me, we were just talking about that. When I was that age, it turned off for me
That,
too,
you're,
and you.
yeah,
So,
oh my gosh, that's crazy. I would not have put that together.
and so he's 22 now. So he's in his I'm turned down era. Everything's turned off or turned down. He's very intuitive and he makes very great decisions using his intuition, but he doesn't see ghosts or spirits anymore. And he doesn't get psychic information anymore like he used to. And he completely recognizes and he thinks it's all been turned off, but I think it's just been turned down
Oh yeah.
because these kids got to go out and figure out who they freaking are and where they're going in life and have some actual life experiences before that stuff gets turned back up is what I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because yeah,
And
you're in
just
your
like
like
us when we were that age.
learning lessons. Yeah. Not that you don't
Yeah.
have, I still had like paranormal experiences and but like during that time, but like, yeah, my psychic abilities were, yeah, definitely turned down.
Yeah, and like I told Tyler, I said, "Well, honey, don't be upset about it." And he's like, "Well, I'm not really upset. It's just weird. I don't understand why." And I was like, "Well, I can tell you one thing. I can't tell you exactly why they shut off because it's different for everybody, but I can tell you that they'll be back.
Yep.
Those abilities will come back when the time is right and when you're ready for that, you
Yep.
know?"
Exactly. And that's why you'll know, listen to your body, listen to your thoughts. Like that's all our guidance. And that's, yeah,
Yep.
that's my compass.
Yep. So the last few things I got here about how to learn how to channel or strengthen your channeling ability is this is really important, guys. Sorry, it is. You either have to connect to God, source, or your higher self. You have to connect to something outside of yourself. Your soul is considered outside of yourself. Technically, it is inside you. However, spiritually it is outside of you, okay? So that is connecting to something outside of yourself, because there's like two versions of you. There's your soul and then there's your physical self that your brain operates, all right?
Mhm.
So, and also too, we all go to the astral realm. We all have our souls leaving our bodies while we're sleeping and different things of that nature. So it is two different vessels, the body and the soul, you know? Um, but that is imperative in connecting and channeling because channeling is the art of getting information from something outside of yourself. So, I mean, it's part of it, you know?
Yeah. I always say my human brain and my spiritual brain. And when I visualize the two, my human brain's in my head, my spiritual brain's like right here, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's funny. There's chakras there. The crown chakra floats just above the crown. You know, I don't even know an exact, like what, an inch or so. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, oh, wait, let me duck down. Then there's one here. There's another one here, and it goes up again. And I don't. There may be more after that, but that's what I'm aware of and know about.
Oh, I didn't even
There's
know about those. Yeah. I knew
yeah,
the
there
crown,
is
but then like,
chakras all around the outside of our body, all around. We have them on the palms of our hands, the bottoms of our feet. And that's, you know, aside from the main ones. And then they're surrounding us, I guess. Like, I should find a chart thing that shows them all, and we'll have to check it out together. It's really interesting.
oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Um,
that'll be a fun topic too.
yeah, I learned the main chakras from root to crown, the seven main chakras. And then I found out there was like 8,000 more. And I was like, okay, this is overwhelming. I'm just going to learn the main seven and move on for now.
Yeah. I think I text you over the summer. I had a meditation where I was shown the chakras that go up our back and the purpose of them and everything. And so
Oh, yeah, that
like,
has to do with the Kundalini rising, those
yeah, I have to
chakras.
find it. I don't know what notebook it's in, but I'll look for it. So when we do like a chakra episode, I'll be able to like, yeah, just kind of share what
Oh, yeah,
information I received channeled.
perfect. And we will do a podcast on chakras. That's a good topic and a big one to talk
Yeah.
about for real.
Mhm.
Um, so automatic writing and journaling is another key component to strengthening or learning how to channel using your channeling abilities. I would say, especially for newbies, okay, if you have a hard time visualizing, which a lot of people do in the beginning. Everyone can write. I'm just saying. I mean, I know some people might have something wrong with their hands, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, when I do like uh, channeled writing or automatic write, like, there's so many different definitions, and everyone thinks that it means different things. But for me, just an automatic writing is whenever I'm just channeling and I'm writing, and I do that a lot for my readings. But a lot of times I'm like, oh, like I don't remember what I wrote, so I love writing it, especially if I'm asking a question specifically for myself, because I could go back
Yeah,
and read it, and I'm like, oh, because you don't remember like what you wrote. You don't remember what you channeled because it's coming through you, not from you. So writing is just, I love it just because then I have it recorded and I can go back and see like what message I've received or like what information I've
yeah,
received.
yeah, definitely. Um, Also, too, paying attention to the intuitive messages and anything your intuition is bringing in because that's connected to your channeling, your intuition.
Hmm.
So you have to acknowledge that you have an intuition and it helps you build and strengthen your channeling abilities because they go together. You know, it
Yeah.
is two separate things, but they're very similar and go together
Yeah.
like
And it's,
peas in a pod.
yeah. And to me, like, I take it as just as simple as like if I see an angel number or I receive a message, I just say thank you. Like, that's my acknowledgement. Just thank you. Thank you for that. Just like
Oh,
simple.
yeah,
And
that's nice and simple. I
yeah.
like that
So,
because you have to acknowledge that you're receiving something, or the universe is like, oh, well, they're ignoring it. So they want us to tone it back. So we're going to
yeah.
stop sending them messages.
Right.
And then it gets shut down. But if you're trying to open it up, that's, you know, contradicting,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Um, and also, I just wanted to add too, for anyone that, because my hands cramp up really bad now that I'm a little bit older when I write too much. And nowadays we write less because we're using our finger to text and everything. Use dictation, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Everybody has a recording thing in their cell phone, most likely. You know what I mean? Or get a little handheld recorder and dictate instead of write. It's the same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, as long as you like just yeah, just a record of the message so you can go back and yeah, however you want to do
Yeah.
it.
So, staying mindful and being open minded, that kind of goes along with, you know, acknowledging your intuitive messages and what you're channeling in. And then also, to believing that you have this ability, that you can achieve to use this ability. It's not that you have to achieve the ability, you already have it, but you have to be able to utilize it and use it. And that's the whole learning how to ride a bike, learning how to tie your shoe, learning how to talk, walk, and write. It's, you know, you've learned how to do all of that. And remember how hard all those things were when you were a little kid? Because I do,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
And it's just learning to trust
nothing
that
is too hard to learn.
yeah, and that like what you're getting is a message. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
And then the last two, creating a sacred space. I think that's very important, although I can channel anywhere, anytime, for any reason. However, I do my best connecting alone in this room right here, my meditation room slash office slash sacred space.
Yep.
Um, because in this room, my boyfriend's always downstairs, but in this room, I am alone. I am with self, and I am able to open up fully without any outside distractions interfering me. Interference is a big problem in channeling. So that's why sacred space is important, because there's too many interferences in the world and out there, right? That can interfere and
Yeah.
screw up your thought process and your connection.
Yeah.
So when you're in that sacred space, you're able to get rid of all those interferences and interruptions. You know what I mean? Like, say you're channeling really hard alone in your room and you have a kid and they come beating on the door. Blah, 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 this, that, and the other. I bet your channeling got messed up, and now you don't know where you left off. You forgot what you were doing or what was going on or what you were being fed because that interference came in and it was a huge disruption, you know?
Yep. And it's also Like I have my own sacred space, and I just make sure I cleanse the energy. This is like the room that I energetically clear, like at least weekly, maybe bi-weekly, and the rest of my house, I'm like, it's okay. I don't really need, but like here, I just like really want this vibration to be high in here. I want it to be clear. I just really want this to feel sacred. And it's interesting because a lot of people, I don't tell a lot of people what I do. And my son's friends will be like, "Ooh, that room has a different feeling in it," or like people always comment on this room feeling different, and I'm like,
Isn't
"I
that
don't do
great that
that."
people notice and you're like, I did that.
Yeah, I
That
was
was
like, I
me.
did. Yeah, so that's because it's my space, and I'm like, and also like I don't really like a lot of people just like hanging out in here, or
Yeah.
because it's kind of it's my space. Like I'm claiming it. But
Yep.
it's kind of interesting whenever you hear other people like, wow, that room has a different feeling. Like, I don't know why does that room feel so different? And it just like it gets all the time. So I love that, but that's yeah, just part of making your own sacred space is just kind of controlling and having it be your energy in the space, not everybody's, you know?
Absolutely. And then the last one is protecting yourself from negative and or low vibrational frequencies and or spirit influences when you're channeling. Okay, guys, listen. When I was younger and doing the drug thing and all of that crazy stuff, I was channeling information from demons, okay, from low vibrational spirits and entities and energies, whatever you want to call it. I like to call them demons, whatever you want to call it. They're lower frequencies that were they were channeling through fear based information to throw me off. And maybe
Mhm.
that's why I stayed so disconnected for so long.
Yeah.
All right. Because I was channeling in visions of me like in really weird ways. Okay. Like I would like have these weird visions of me like walking through the living room and there being like a nail sticking up through the carpet and I would see myself trip over it and then like fall and bust my head open. Like, what are these visions I'm having?
Yeah.
Me?
Yes.
Like I felt like a psychopathic crazy person having these weird visions all the time. And I had some other weird stuff too, where I was like driving down a road, and then I would all of a sudden there was a car coming in the other lane. And I grew up in the country where every road was a 2-lane road. Okay. Out here in the city, you got multiple lanes, 2-lane road. So we're like this. And then I would have this vision of me jerking the wheel and hitting them head on, just like really crazy stuff. So if you're channeling in anything crazy, dark, evil, toxic, you need to cleanse yourself, protect yourself, and set your intentions that you're only here to channel in positive, loving, and light kind of information and messages from positive, high vibrational frequencies and spirits only.
Yeah.
Okay, because listen, not everybody is protected right off rip. I wasn't either. And it's in my birth chart to be a psychic medium and do what I'm doing in my life. And still yet, I was not protected at a young age because I had to learn how it works and protect myself. And so do we all. So I'm just saying, just want to put that
Right.
out.
Well, I have to say, even with like those kind of thoughts, like those are like the intrusive thoughts. And I think a lot of times whenever we do get those intrusive thoughts, that's a sign from our bodies or our minds to raise our vibration. Um, those are low vibrational thoughts. They always are. And that's like just I always think like it like I say whenever I have those thoughts that like I'm like, oh, those thoughts don't serve me, or I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you, God, thank you, angels, for helping me raise my vibration. But the other thing is like our media and our technology is our like brain food. And so just be careful what you're watching. Because I've just follow a
Yeah.
couple like gurus and stuff, and a lot of them like I have a hard time with raising my vibration. I loved the Halloween movies. I love the horror, like the scarier the better, the more gruesome the better. But now I physically can't sit and watch them anymore. And I don't want to like deter anyone from like
Yeah.
raising their vibration if you love these movies. But it just like I can't resonate with that anymore. And so I'll still sit with my husband and like he still watches them and stuff, and I'll like be there, but not, that might be on my phone or taking a nap. But it's
Dude,
just
that's so
like,
funny. I watch horror movies all the time, but then there's some nights where I'm like, oh, I'm just not in the right energy for this. So I'm gonna
yeah.
watch like a love story or a rom-com or something.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to listen to your body for that reason. And yeah, there's a couple people that are like, if once you stop watching like the horror movies and even Dateline, which I used to fall asleep to Dateline like all the time, and th those thoughts,
They're
like those,
programming those murder stories into your
yeah.
mind while you were
I
sleeping.
know.
I bet you were having some crazy dreams.
No, I've lived crazier, so I'm like, this is like PG for me. But like, it just, yeah, I've like those nightmares and those intrusive thoughts and those negative thoughts, like go away because you're not
Yeah,
feeding that part of your brain, your thoughts, your energy. So just like, yeah, just I always say like garbage in, garbage out. Not that it's like necessarily garbage, but like once you see something, you can't unsee it. Once you experience something, you can't unexperience it. So just be really
yeah,
mindful of what you're feeding your mind, body, and soul. So that's just my last little
absolutely
ending thought.
agree. Well, that was a great one. I think we covered a lot in this one for you guys today. So I hope you guys all really enjoy the information that we get out and our chit chat. I mean, we come on here and we're talking this out because we're channeling this information through.